Alright everyone, so before I start off this story, I do just want to say that um, I wrote this one myself. This is the first one that I came up with. By the way, you should know what I look like by now. I did a face reveal a couple months ago. Um, but this is still kind of a work in progress, so I apologize if this doesn't make too much sense. But before I start this, I do want to admit this. I'm going to start doing one creepypasta every single month. Then in October, I'm going to do at least 5 at the most, I think. I am writing another one of my own stories that I came up with myself as we speak, but I'm not even past the first paragraph, so um, this is going to be a little bit different. But anyway, it's time that I start getting back to this. Enjoy! It was just this past summer. I loved watching Nickelodeon every day from 1996 until 2016, the year this incident happened. God, I pray that it doesn't happen to anyone else. When I found out they had made the very first Nickelodeon movie, Harriet the Spy, I was very happy. The year it came out was 1996, 20 years ago. When I found a copy of the VHS tape of the film on Amazon, I read about it to see if it was in good condition for selling to the public. It looked fine, but strangely, it said not for sale or temporarily out of stock. I thought to myself, why isn't this allowed to be sold? I looked at the images of the tape in question, and it was creepy. And it looked like an executive at Nickelodeon holding this specific videotape, with a horrified, blood-covered face, along with a gun and a bottle of what looked like bleach. I figured out this was to scare people away from buying the tape, but why? I bought it anyway. It took 6 days for it to arrive at our house. My excitement was high as I had hoped for it to come. I opened the door and told the delivery guy thanks for giving it to me. He looked like he hadn't slept in nights. He then left my porch without saying a word. I was curious why he left without my signature, or anything for that matter. I shut the door and took the wrappings off the videotape. As my mom was cooking dinner, I suggested we should watch the film together, since both of us like certain Nickelodeon movies, and my mom really adored Rosie O'Donnell. I put in the tape after I got my dinner. The tape started with a black screen for 20 seconds, then showed the Rugrats Videos trailer, which played normally, but at the end, it had a blood-red Nickelodeon logo. The screen faded black. We thought this was just a simple color mistake, so we brushed this off and kept watching. Then the Paramount Family Favorites trailer started, and the narrator had a deeper voice than before. The Happy Day song played very poorly, and when I say this, I mean the only good thing was the quality was decent, but the song was off-key the whole time. When the trailer ended, I took the tape out for a moment and looked at the film strip. It was fine. I put it in again, and the trailer for the film Magic in the Mirror Foul Play began playing. Yes, that film is real. It cut off halfway through, and the bumper for the movie, along with the Rugrat music videos, came up. The only difference here was the background color was red instead of yellow. The first Rugrats music video played normally, but for some odd reason, it had red flashes of light throughout. The video's ending Nickelodeon logo came up and was red again, but more blood red than the last one. There was also a low demonic laugh in the background. We played this 3 times to hear it clearly, but it wasn't too audible, so that's why. The Paramount Feature Presentation bumper came up, but it had flames on the bottom of the screen. It was strange, as the announcer's voice was very badly distorted. When the FBI warning screen came up, it creeped me out like nothing else on the tape, and it said, "Oh God, are you still watching? This can't be unseen. If you continue watching, you'll never look at life the same way again." I was almost in tears as this faded to the format screen. It was just the number 6, over and over and over again. At last the film started. The Paramount logo came on, but the scary part was the sky. It was just blood red and orange, and the stars that form an arc shape around the mountain as usual had blood dripping from the points of them. There was a loud scream of a child instead of wind chimes that played in the original film. My mom and I were staring in terror as the nightmare went on. The Nickelodeon Movies bumper made my mom puke. Here's what it was. The blue rhino was running into the clouds like the usual one, but the bad part was he was broken, beat, and scarred. Metallica's song reference not intended. Yeah, it actually is. And wearing bandages around his forehead. He was also missing an eye. I cringed so hard at the sight, it hurt my neck. The rhino tripped into the Nickelodeon cloud like in the normal version, but there was a bear trap behind it. It cut his foot clean off when he stepped on it, and blood squirted from his leg, and some got on the screen. I held back vomit as he screamed in pain. When he smacked against the screen, he was dead. He was also seen hanging on a noose as the Nickelodeon logo was shaped like a knife instead of a splat, as it had literally formed it. I thought, what is this? The film's opening titles ran through normally, but the title said Paramount Pictures Presents the first Nickelodeon movie, a Rastar production, Harriet The Dead Spy. The names were normal, but the director's name was just Lucifer. I'd had enough at this point and tried ejecting the tape, but nothing worked. I was forced to watch the rest, as my mom had fainted after the Nickelodeon bumper faded away a few moments ago. The film opened with Harriet and her friends laughing at the stairway to the school. They were pointing and looking up at something above them. When the camera panned up, it showed Marion Hawthorne, the bully of the film, pinned on the flagpole. Her intestines were dangling down, and her dress was waving in the breeze, with blood stains on it. Harriet suddenly stopped laughing and smiled at the camera intensely. She looked at her friends Jamie and Sport and took a pencil from behind her ear. She ran up to Sport and stabbed him. The blood came pouring from his gut as he died right there. Jamie screamed and tried to run and get help, but Harriet snuck up on her and impaled her in the eye. I screamed at this. She just killed her friends. What kind of a sick, twisted film is this, I thought. She then went for her teacher, stabbing her with her ruler right in her side. Harriet pulled her lungs out and chewed on them in front of the class walking in. Harriet, with a full mouth of blood and lungs, stood there laughing and screaming for 6 seconds before the screen cut to black for 6 minutes. Count the sixes, people. It suddenly came back with a time card, 6 hours later. Again, this is a work in progress. Harriet was seen walking into Golly's room, her nanny, and stabbed her in her sleep. Golly only screamed one word. No. Harriet screamed with a huge, open, jaw-dropped mouth that looked like it was CG, but it wasn't really that good in the mid-90s. Harriet went into the kitchen as her mother was getting a quick midnight snack, as it was late in the night, as Harriet killed her by shoving the snack down her throat at once. Her mom choked to death. I screamed in horror at this point. I couldn't take much more. Harriet suddenly began quickly decomposing like one of the creatures from the Evil Dead as the film continued. After another time card came up saying 6 weeks later, Harriet was shown finishing off Marion Hawthorne's body. She only said one sentence. What can I do to finish this now? Suddenly, a man with horns on his head, which looked like the devil himself, appeared on screen. He congratulated Harriet for killing her friends and family. Harriet transformed into a demonic version of herself and flew down to the depths of hell. The devil looked at the screen and said, "She was my first slave, and you're next." He ate the camera and the credits rolled, but the names were all sixes and the music was just sounds of screams and flames burning in the background. I was ready to go insane. The Paramount logo showed up again, but it had a black sky this time and just said Paranormal, a Lucifer company, instead of Paramount, a Viacom company. The second Rugrats music video played. It was just stills of the characters of the babies in normal poses, as screams were heard in the credits earlier. Finally, everything ended and the screen was black for another 6 minutes. The tape stopped, and I screamed so loud that my mom woke up. She held me in her arms and I was shaking in fear. I finally got to eject the tape, and I threw it on the floor and smashed it into pieces with my foot, and then a hammer, and then I burnt every piece of it, even the box that it came in. I tossed it in the trash on garbage night, and the garbage men took it away, never to be seen or heard about again. After this tragedy, I looked up the film to see what it really was. It turns out someone to make a horror film version of the original book that this is based on. I tried to contact Rosie O'Donnell about the movie, but as soon as I mentioned it to her on the phone, all that she did was scream, and she hung up. I contacted the CEO of Nickelodeon and mentioned it, and Rastar. I mentioned it to Rastar, and they didn't scream and hang up. Instead, they said they never wanted to think about that nightmare again. I asked them what they meant by this, and they told me to drop the subject at once. I couldn't, until the mystery was solved. Finally, with no other choices, I looked the film up on Wikipedia. The site had no results. I contacted Nick again. This time the CEO said the film was in production normally, after I got it out of him, but someone shanghaied the film, and they never found it. After a while, the film was mysteriously shown in theaters, being called the best kids' summer flick of the year. I asked him what happened, and he said the man who screwed up the original film was a Satanist. He looked at the devil as his god, and told himself to make the movie in his own way to please his master. Just like another line in the film I watched but was too scared to explain. The cops eventually found the man, but he committed suicide before they could arrest him. After about 6 days later, I found the only copy of the film that ever made it to VHS. It wasn't even in its original box. It was in just a simple cardboard box with a few stains of what looked like blood, but it was probably ketchup. The CEO told me never to talk about the film again to anyone else, or this memory, this horrible, tragic, demonic memory would spy on me and haunt my days and my nightmares and all of my dreams as long as I live. If any of you come across a single copy, I beg of you, turn off the TV and run for your fucking life.